well done. Acompanha Berqvist in centro. And Riga lead.
Welcome to the Latvian Football Podcast, where today we will just talk about some bits and bobs happening in Latvian football recently in terms of transfers, etc., and then of course cover the most recent game round 20 of Virsliga, which also included the big one, the Big Riga Derby. So there's definitely interesting things to talk about, and I guess we can start with some transfer updates, I guess.
Well, before we do that, let's share some news of ours that with the latest turbulence on our main information dissemination platform, which is Twitter, and some of you may know, those who are there, what I'm talking about, we've decided to finally go ahead and make an Instagram account. Not to replace Twitter, we think it's still fantastic for making announcements and consuming information about football. After all, it still is the main kind of a social network for news and such. But we made an account. We take lots of pictures and some videos during games that we go to anyway, and this will be a place where we post those, or at least that's the primary use of this initially. Maybe if it kind of develops, or if we get more into it, we'll also start adding some stories or live stuff, and I don't fully know what are the capabilities of Instagram these days, even though I had it since like 2013 or something, back when it was all square and blue and independent. But in any case, do feel free to follow us there. It's at LVFootball, one word, _podcast. So LVFootball _podcast. At the moment, there's one picture, but that's okay. There will be more. And we are not the only ones upset by the lack of performance and general disappointment with the Bluebird platform. And our new best friend, who we ran into and met during the Big Riga Derby, who is running the Latvian Footy in English account, also did the same. It's dormant for him, but in any case, if you wanna give it a follow, it's at LV _football news, one word. So if you're not on Twitter, that's where you can find us. If you are, that's maybe a good backup, or if you want some more visual content, so that's where we are. Just again at LVFootball _podcast. And yes, let's talk about transfer news. We're not going to cover all, as we mentioned last time. We will do that once the transfer window is closed. But some things are just too exciting to let pass. So I'll start with probably the most heartwarming and fuzzy transfer news of the ones to date, which is Faustas Steponavicius, who was owned by RFS but was shining bright on loan in Tukums, a Lithuanian youngster who we did talk about a few times before, including more in-depth ones, has performed so well that no, he wasn't recalled back to RFS for European games, as we also speculated. He was straight up sold to Bulgarian Premier League, to Botev Plovdiv, for, according to some 200,000 euros, according to others for just north of 100,000 euros. But either way, a fantastic move for him. Half a year in Latvia, and that's what you can achieve. You can go to larger leagues like, Bulgaria in this case, or Poland in other cases. So this is nice. And Tukums, his teammates, posted a lovely picture on Facebook, I saw, where they they all took a group photo with his jersey, the number 7 Steponavicius in bright green to bid him farewell and say thanks and goodbye.
Yeah, that's definitely good for him. I think good for Tukums because realistically, even though he sold from RFS, he didn't really play for them in Virsliga. Well, didn't play at all, which is a bit of a weird one. I don't think I've ever seen this player being sold by just performing well at the loan club. But yeah, it's definitely good for him. Good advertising for the Virsliga as well. And yeah, definitely happy for him. Definitely a very perspective player. Already also been called up to the national team at such an early age. And yeah, the only minus is that I really wanted to see him in RFS to just see how well he would do there. But well, not meant to be. But at least good business for RFS.
Oh, fantastic!
Selling a player without even having to play him
or pay salary. So they took him in, they loaned him out to Tukums. We don't know the details of the loan, but I mean, it's almost certain that Tukums was paying his salary, and then they just pocket.
Oh no! Actually, no. When you loan a player out, you still pay him. Definitely, RFS was paying him.
You sure?
I think that's how a loan. Yeah, I'm certain. Well, relatively certain. Yeah, that's usually how loans work, and yeah, that's why players sometimes don't mind to be loaned out because they still get the money, but yeah, they just play for a different club. I think it should be the case. I think RFS is definitely a club that would do that.
We need to get some insight on that because that's not how it works elsewhere.
I am quite isn't it? I think it is. Well, I think it might be because also when I watched the game with Metta, I don't know who they played some time ago. The commentator Novickis also said that Bex, the goalkeeper of Metta, who's now also owned by RFS, hasn't been that good lately, and maybe he's too much in the comfort zone because he's now financially stable because he's been being paid by RFS, even though he plays for Metta.
I thought he meant that it's more to do with that he has a future contract, so he doesn't need to worry about that bit. But okay, obviously we don't know. You think it's that way. I'm suspicious, but we need to get some insight. So if you know,
yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah, okay, that's definitely interesting. Yeah, to find out.
If you know, let us know.
Usually, yeah, I agree.
But either way,
well, maybe I'm completely wrong.
Either way, if you okay, say it's your way, and then they get a guy, pay him 6 months of salary, and then pocket 100K. I mean, that's pretty good.
Exactly, yeah. So yeah, that's definitely a good one. But I found it interesting that you said that's the most heartwarming, fuzzy one, because I think a lot of people, especially RFS fans, would disagree, and they would say that the most heartwarming, fuzzy transfer is actually Darko Lemajic, who's been also a bit of a legend for RFS, and he's returning back to RFS after 2 years in Belgium. I think it was Ghent.
Ghent,
right?
KAA Ghent, so the Ghent main Ghent club.
Ghent, yeah. After they played RFS, they thought that he looked good and just took him in. Or I think it was Conference League, basically.
It was Conference League round 3 where RFS played Ghent. They played away game in Belgium 2-2, leading 2-0. And then Belgians came here. It was a game at the Daugavpils stadium. I was there. Splurged 20 euros for a VIP ticket or something like that. I remember it. And Ghent barely scraped by 1-0. And I remember it distinctly because I have acquired a dislike for Kevin Friesenbichler in that game. That up until then he doesn't play anymore. They released him at the beginning of this season, but he just made an emotional foul, and then that foul led to an indirect free kick, and that indirect free kick led to a goal. And I was like, why can't you keep it in your pants? Something to that effect. But yeah, and essentially it was the very end of the transfer window, and Ghent were looking for a striker, and the coach really took a liking to Lemajic, and so they arranged it basically within a space of a few hours with RFS. And then Lemajic was off to Belgium, where he helped Ghent win the Belgian cup, scoring the decisive penalty, but then through injuries and losing out in competition, Ghent has some very exciting players now. He just kind of didn't play at all, and so now he's back.
Yeah, and then he was definitely very liked by the RFS fans, well, team as well. He also didn't. Well, there was also an interview with him posted now that he's back, and he also didn't hide that this was probably the easiest decision that he has ever made, and that he just likes it here, and it's nice in RFS. And I think we've seen that a lot with also with the documentary and players speaking out on the club, on the whole system. So yeah, it just proves again how well RFS is being run, and then definitely great for him. But then again, it raises other questions.
Well, for me, it raises a question about that I've been raising since we started this podcast, and I make no secret of that. I am an RFS supporter, but for me, this is not warm and fuzzy news as Steponavicius is, because for me, yeah, it raises the question of what is the transfer strategy for the club. We have Riga on the other side of the river, who are signing these exciting international players from large football countries who are young most of the time, and who, by virtue of, maybe we'll talk about this in a little bit, but someone from a football country who maybe plays for the national team and then comes here, and then that attracts more interest to Latvian football as well as new skills, perspectives. It just makes the game more diverse. Whereas RFS, they lucked out with Steponavicius, but they don't really seem to have a strategy as such. They're bringing back old players like Šimković last year, Lemajic now.
Ikonex.
Ikonex. Nagasawa is an interesting find, but he's still in development stages, and it's just, to me, this news was more disappointing than inspirational, to be honest. And it's just like, why are we looking back and not going forward? RFS is has the foundation to be, or maybe arguably is, a flagship club for Latvia in Europe, and I feel like they have the resources and they should have the ambition to also reflect that in their transfer strategy, and that is just a little bit underwhelming to me. But in any case, yeah, Lemajic is back, excellent striker. We'll see what form he's in, but absolutely a much more lethal player than Ilic is. Very tall, accurate, and will definitely put some much needed competition on Ilic, as well as improve the RFS attacking line just in time for European games again.
And that's actually what I would say as a counterpoint to you. I think that the strategy is pretty much there. They're bringing in some new players, as you said, Nagasawa, Steponavic, but they also are. They want to win, and they're bringing these verified values. They know the players well, and because there's not much time left until European games, they don't really have the time to sort of build the chemistry up. But Lemajic knows the teams, he knows a lot of players already, and that's why I think it makes sense. It's not, I think, surprising for RFS to do that. As you said, Šimković was the same case, Ikonex sort of as well. And it's just one player. I don't think they would even really pay a lot for him. I think it's very beneficial for RFS to do this, and yeah, I think it's both because easy chemistry, he knows the team, and also putting some pressure on Ilic. Will be interesting to see what happens now with both of them in the team, how they share the minutes, what's going on. Maybe Ilic will move, who knows? But I think I think the RFS doesn't have one strategy of transfers, but I think that's good because they balance it well between finding new players, but also getting some players in that they know that will do the job. And I think Lemajic is also definitely a good player for the changing room. I think I've seen through Zhigayev's vlogs that he's a very sort of fun person and also a good friend to a lot of players. Well, maybe the ones who already left more, like Šimković and Šarić, but still. But I agree, there is some questionable motives behind it maybe as well. So it would be just another interesting thing to see But I think it is still big news. But I think your disappointment is also quite valid, so that's fair enough.
With Šimković, is he away? Because in the video that RFS uploaded of this event, Šimković is there greeting Lemajic along with Milov, the owner, and some other people, and that I don't know.
Was
but
he there?
Yeah,
I thought I
Šimković
saw
was
Panic.
for
Was
sure.
he? Oh, well, maybe he works.
Panic
for
was there
RFS.
too. Yeah, Panic was there as well.
Yeah.
Panic, Šimković, the whole gang.
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe he works for some position at RFS. Who knows? Well, but
Would be nice.
But that's
Yeah.
also a nice thing about RFS. They are almost like a big family. Very sort of. They only bring in players that they know are also fit for the club, and in terms of like their mentality, character, etc. So I think that's nice. And I think overall that's also where they definitely sort of take the edge on Riga as well. Well, maybe that we leave that for the actual derby when we discuss it. But yeah.
Another one that we handpicked to discuss today is Douglas Berqvist. Has been let go. Berqvist joined Riga FC last year, I think, right?
Yes, last year.
He was a Swedish center back, was a big deal, played for Riga. This year got transferred to play for Auda, where it was a bit of a mixed bag. There were some mistakes that led to some spectacular goals. The one against Liepaja is the most recent that comes to mind. But, I mean, it wasn't terrible by any means. But he has been let go, made a free agent, so he is away. In terms of other releases, Liepaja appear to be cleaning house a little bit. They released 3 players just recently. Josef Minala, Isa Ibrahim, and Gleb Grachov. They didn't make any announcements of it, so it's a little bit down low. But we saw it on the official stuff.
Also, a couple players went to Gruabinje, Krautmanis and Fyodorovs, and then I think also there was this one player who I think he barely played for the first team, then played for the reserves, but I know he scored 2 goals against the PK. I don't remember his name, but he's also I think done with the. Basically, Liepaja is just, as you said, cleaning house. A lot of players.
They took in lots of new players, and then they're ditching the ones that they don't want to keep. Tamas Pertie was challenged on this during the latest press conference, or the one before that. Like, why so much rotation in terms of players going in, leaving? And he kind of got very defensive about it, saying that, well, all clubs do that. They take in players, see what works, what doesn't work, and then they let go the ones that they don't like. But I think that's an understatement with Liepaja. They are clearly the ones doing it to the highest extreme, basically buying players wholesale, shipping them here, and then just seeing what works, what doesn't. But it doesn't seem like a good way of doing things, both in terms of those players and what it's like for them, what's their experience of this, but also if I'm a Liepaja fan, well, how am I supposed to get to know the team when this kind of stuff is always happening, right? It's like we talked about last time, that Liepaja fielded 5 of their newest arrivals in starting lineup in the game. And what are you supposed to do? Yeah,
exactly. It's if Tamas says that all the teams does that, then Liepaja does it times 10. You cannot compare it. And also quickly wanted to mention that I will miss Berqvist's voice. He's a very vocal, loud player and a bit of a high-pitched voice. And it's always very interesting when he plays. You always hear him. And we'll miss that, but well, farewell to him, of course.
And finally, again, handpicked transfer news. Well, obviously Riga are very active again on the transfer market, and they are actively throwing cash around as they do. They have signed a Peruvian national team winger, left wing, Iberico, which is exciting. And when I talked about just a bit earlier, that signing players from these big football countries that can expose Virsliga and Latvian football to new audiences. That's what I meant. So the news about Iberico gathered a lot of traction, and if it all works out for him, which with Riga it was always a big if, well, some more South American fans following Latvian league is, I'm all up for that. And then there's rumors about a Spanish center forward who is currently in Poland, Eric Exposito, being very close to signing for Riga as well. And that would also be another of these very exciting, high-profile signings. Iberico's value, according to Transfermarkt, is 800,000 euros. Eric Exposito is at 1 million, which for Riga FC is fairly routine kind of business, but for Latvian football as a whole, these are absolutely super mega star signings for sure.
By the way, when mentioning the sort of these big football countries from which Riga bring players, and do you remember that, I don't know if it was this preseason or the last one, there were some rumors about some like big Vietnamese player coming over to Riga, and there was so much attraction from Vietnam then, like just by this one rumor, which didn't end up happening, but still, yeah, a lot of attraction from Vietnam just because of that. So that's definitely a smart thing that Riga does, yeah.
That was last year with Torsten Fink.
Yeah.
When he took over for Riga, yeah, there were rumors about this Vietnamese player, and I know what you're talking about. I saw it was actually pretty entertaining to read comments on Facebook under this announcement, where these Vietnamese people were like, "Oh, the one comment stood out to me as just being so not how I do these things," but they were like, okay, so the rumor of this national team player signing with Riga, and then the person's like, yes, I saw Riga play, and from the first minutes I knew that this is like my soulmate club or something like that, that I will always support them. And then the move doesn't even turn out, and then I'm thinking like, all right, do you have another soulmate club now, or what happened there? But in any case, yeah, what Riga does definitely very good for advertising Latvian football all over the world.
And yeah, I think that's it about the transfer news. One other thing that we wanted to mention is that today it came out that Daugavpils, a player from Czech Republic, Harušták, has done an interview with the Czech media, and that's quite an interesting one.
Yeah, so it was an interview in Czech to some outlet there. I have no idea. It's in Czech, but with the wonders of technology, language is really not a barrier anymore. Certainly not as much, so just chuck that thing into Google Translate, and it's perfectly readable for the most part. But it's nice. They're asking him about how he ended up in Latvia, and he was apparently very close to playing in the Czech Premier League at one point, but things didn't work out, and then he decided, instead of playing in Czech Second League, to go abroad, and kind of things worked out with Daugavpils. There's a little funny passage about how he came on trial and it was like -20, and he had to play in 2 jackets, but did well. Things relevant to us include they were comparing how Latvian Virsliga compares to Czech Second League, which was his alternative to play in, and he said some interesting things, that it's more open, more technical. I have no idea what Czech Second Division is like, or even where they are with respect to strength and ranking, but he did say some lovely things also about the city, which okay, not to this on Daugavpils, but let's say it's not the most exciting of Latvian cities. It's in the far east of the country, kind of between borders with Belarus and Russia. But he seems to be happy there, so that's nice. And just overall a cute interview that gives you a bit of insight into what playing in Latvia looks like if you're a young, talented Czech footballer who's doing very good things for Daugavpils. We talked about Harušták in the previous episode. Very good luck to you, especially after this interview, getting to know person a little bit of what he's like.
Yeah. So I guess we can now talk about the actual Virsliga games that took place. Round 20 of Virsliga. Another 5 games. I think quite an interesting round as well. And the first game that took place was in Valmiera. Valmiera against Liepaja, 2 neighbors in the table. A huge game. But pretty much any game was overshadowed by the Riga Derby this round. But still an interesting game, which ended 1-1. And one significant thing about this game, I think, is that Camilo Mena made the return to Valmiera in the starting lineup, and he played and he was active, but also missed a penalty. But the game ended 1-1. Did you catch any of it? Any comments on the game?
I saw, I think, pretty much all of it. I think I had to go towards the end of second half. No, it was an interesting game for sure. Valmiera looked more active, more in control. But Liepaja were definitely no slouches either. They got a red card in the middle of second half, which is after which point things kind of got a little bit downhill because Valmiera scored their penalty 2 minutes later. So there's 1-1, both goals from penalties, and then there was another penalty that Mena earned and did not convert.
That was the first one. It was still, I think, 1-0 in Liepaja's lead,
Yeah, exactly. So Mena could have equalized much earlier, but didn't. Valmiera managed to produce 27 shots, but only 6 of which were on target. Liepaja had 6 shots overall, but 3 of which were on target. Valmiera completely dominated possession at 73%. Liepaja really just focused on keeping the defense intact and then counter-attacking where possible.
Yeah, well, Valmiera were definitely the better team. Just lacked finishing. Liepaja got their penalty, got their goal, and then really did sit back. But even though the Senegalese players are quite decent, but there's still a lot of mistakes in them. Well, maybe it's just because of lack of game time together and the chemistry, but Valmiera could have scored more due to these mistakes. But just, poor finishing. And Mena was very active. You could see that he was hungry to play, but maybe a bit too individual, and also did miss the penalty. But I think it's still a good addition for Valmiera. I hope they do better in the next 2 games prior to, well, is it 1 or 2? I think 2 games prior to Champions League, and well, maybe they can make something out of it. But just poor in the attack, although they did attack a lot, and Liepaja, just scored and gradually just sat back more in defense. But they got the result, I guess, especially after the red card. Battled it out.
But still, Valmiera saving the game at home in the 70th minute against Liepaja is not really something that we're used to seeing in the recent years. So
of course,
with that in mind,
it's more that Liepaja got the points because in the end they could have easily lost as well, but managed to drag it out. So fair play to them. It's just, I think, a very proper result for 2 table neighbors.
So the game that followed was Metta hosting Auda, which is another game between table neighbors, and Auda won 1-0. Metta looked fine. They kept more of the ball, didn't really do much in attack. In fact, they only produced 1 shot on goal and 6 shots overall. Auda, on the other hand, 21 total shots, 8 on target. But just this 1 goal by Reginaldo again in the 47th minute, just at the beginning of second half.
Yeah, Auda is definitely a team that's starting to look more exciting towards the European competition because they actually starting to play really well. It seems that two additions, Rubens and Reginaldo Ramirez, have definitely been good ones. Very active players. Against Metta, it's never easy this season, and I think it's a good result for Auda. And they did attack more. They could have easily scored more. A couple of nice saves from backs. Then they were a bit unlucky. Limbashev didn't score, and pretty much an empty net. So yeah, Auda did look quite good. Of course, Metta did create some chances, but as you said, only one shot on target. So just a deserved win for Auda, and yeah, they're looking quite good. Still not really hoping that they could get through the first. Well, they start from the second round, but their first round of the Conference League qualifiers. But maybe they can at least, make some resistance and maybe hope for something. And also, when you say Metta hosting Auda, I also thought that hosting is also quite a interesting term because they played in LNK Sportaparks, which of course is home of RFS. Yeah, the Metta are a bit homeless right now in terms of natural grass pitch, but of course that's not a big deal. Just a random thought. But yeah, in terms of the game, it was just Auda attacked more, eventually scored one, managed to keep a clean sheet. Also, the defense of Auda has been quite good recently. So overall, I like the way they play, but it will be still tough on the European stage. But well, who knows? Who knows what they can come up with?
Yeah, Auda of this season is certainly no Auda of last season, but there's many reasons for that. In terms of the pitch, do you think that Metta are gonna play at LNK Sportapark for their grass pitch?
I think so.
I think we speculated about this. Right?
This wasn't even the first game they played in our LNK as the home team. I think as much as they can, they will do that. Yeah, because Daugavpils Stadium not for use this year, and well, I think it's better that they play there and not in Hansa on the artificial grass during the hottest time of the year.
Yeah, no, it's a nice place.
Exactly.
LNK Sportaparks is just it's brand new, superior quality pitches, both grass and artificial. Lovely stands now. So no, good to know. There was a little bit of controversy towards the end of the game, where there's a bit of lack of clarity on exactly what happened, but it seems that as the game was nearing finish, and it was very much far from certain whether Auda will keep their 1-goal advantage, because Metta were attacking and they were creating chances. And what was I think it was the scorer, Reginaldo, right? He signaled that he needs medical assistance, sat down on the pitch, stretchers were brought out, he was carried off to the side, and then immediately got up on his feet and was signaling to the referee that he's ready to re-enter the game. And this happened pretty much bang in front of the quote-unquote home fans, and they just started whistling the living hell out of him and allegedly hurling racist insults. So this is under investigation probably, because in the refereeing protocol this was noted, and Auda coach Simo Valakari was extremely upset and disappointed that this had happened. In fact, he walked out of the press conference after the statement, whereas Metta coach said that they were whistling at him because he was simulating injury, and said nothing of racist remarks, in fact denying that this had happened. But nonetheless, a very sad, disappointing episode. I'm fully with Valakari on this. I mean, come on, guys, what are you genuinely thinking? And on a side note, I know that people like saying that there is no racism in Latvia, partly because there's a very little racial diversity, I guess, but no, unfortunately that's not true. And I think as the being independent and integrating with the global society, over more and more decades to come, the society is beginning to mix more, and sadly we're seeing these things pop up now and again, which is just, there's no excuse for that. And it was very unfortunate to see that happen during this game, most likely, but still still
Yeah,
unconfirmed.
I fully agree. And it's a bit sad because I thought that Metta's fans be one of the better fans in the league because they're actually like proper fans and they do have some actual sort of movement. And I thought that they're quite all right people as well. But this is an interesting case because, as you said, it's all alleged. And I read that apparently the referees also noted in their sort of notes during the game that it really was the case of some racial slurs. So, yeah, it's tough to see, sad to see. And I hope in the end it's not true, but yeah, it doesn't look too good. Yeah, then the next game, which took place next day, two concurrent games took place before the Riga Derby. It was Daugavpils hosting Jelgava and Supernova hosting Tukums. One game, Daugavpils Jelgava ended 1-1, and Supernova, as suspected, lost to Tukums, though they did score 2 goals. Which is probably a big day for Supernova to do this, to score 2 goals even though losing. But yeah, starting off with Daugavpils Jelgava, I think a lot of Daugavpils fans can be disappointed because coming off such a nice game against Tukums where they just confidently beat them, was it 3-0 I think, or 3-1, right? And then just 1-1 in Jelgava, and Jelgava did look better, but Daugavpils also did produce something, but they just, I don't know, they lacked something, and Jelgava could have easily won. Actually, they had much more chances towards the end as well. They hit a post and it was already 1-1. Palans and Osogwu were very active players, creating a lot for Jelgava. Palans probably unlucky not to get at least an assist. But yeah, Osogwu did score a very nice goal, sort of a solo run from the center on the counter attack. Just took it upon himself to just take on the defender, score a nice goal. Could have scored 2 or 3 more, as I saw. But yeah, in the end, Mukuvele from Daugavpils managed to scrape one in. I think it was the 88th minute, so very late in the game. And then he could have scored another one, but then Jelgava almost scored. They hit the post. And yeah, an interesting game. I think it was very scrappy, a lot of mistakes, which could be something you would expect from Jelgava. But I think Daugavpils, they should do better because they seem that they're starting to play good, but then they do this as well. From Daugavpils, what I noticed, Davis Tutsurs, who missed the last game, was very active today. So that's also nice to see, a nice Latvian right back.
Yeah, not much to say. On top of what you already said, Daugavpils dominated possession and their passing was much better and much more accurate, but they just couldn't do anything with it. And in the end, they almost lost to Jelgava. And as you said, they should really do better than that. Last time we talked about how we're impressed that the absence of Diomande and Jaleko didn't seem to have affected the team all that much. Well, I mean, maybe that was jumping the gun a little bit because in this game they seemed affected. So we'll see how they develop. But as for now, Daugavpils get a point, Jelgava get a point, and Daugavpils continue to inhabit the bottom part of the table, which is really not where they should be, I think, but that's where they are. The second game, Supernova versus Tukums, was way more exciting. In fact, it's the only other game that didn't end in a draw in this whole match day. We had 3 draws and 2 wins, so this is the other win. Lots of goals, some more curious than others. Very good goals for Supernova, I think, as well. I think maybe the primary difference that set these teams apart, however, was Davis Facebooks. Because if you look on paper, it's an extremely even game. 52% possession for Supernova versus 48 for Tukums, 13 shots for Supernova versus 17 for Tukums, 6 shots on target for Supernova versus 10 for Tukums. Supernova didn't look bad, I think. They did actually perform quite well. But the difference was that for Tukums, Sergei Svilkovs was saving. The second goal for Supernova was a mistake from him, but other than that, he made some very nice saves, including a one-on-one with Vishniakovs. But Davis Weisbuks, the new Supernova goalkeeper, he just was letting everything in, it seemed. First goal for Tukums by Kaspars Anmanis was a complete farce of a goal. It wasn't even a shot. Anmanis was pressing the goalkeeper. There was a dodgy pass from Supernova defender back, and then he just literally bumped into Weisbuks, and the ball just casually rolled into the goal while everyone else was watching.
I don't know if the defender was even passing it back. I think it was just bouncing and just miscommunication from the defender and goalkeeper, Weisbuks, and somehow Anmanis just stuck a leg out and rolled it in. It was a very weird goal. It just summed up Supernova, I think, perfectly.
Pretty much, which I feel like is a little bit unfair, because in this game, I think they did look good. They weren't them tired selves that we have gotten so used to and annoyed with seeing, but Weisbuks was having a terrible time. Like, I mean, some of the goals, looking at the replays, it's like, why are those going in? And yet they were. So I think that's the main difference between these two teams in this particular game. So even though the scorelines suggest Tukums dominated and annihilated Supernova, if you look at the game, that is far from being the case. In fact, I would be, if looking at it and kind of analyzing from Tukums' perspective, I would be concerned for why Tukums did the way they did here, and certainly a lot of room for improvement for them, and many things to think about.
Yeah, I do agree. Yeah, not a good time for Weisbuks. Some goals were weird from Galais. The first one, I think, was a bit interesting. Kranzman scored the first one as well. But yeah, well, for Supernova, Minion scored again. Seems to be almost the only player scoring for Supernova. Then there was also a very nice moment when Supernova didn't score but could have, which I think it was just some old school class from Lyzans and Vishniakovs. There was some pass to Lyzans. He was in sort of center of the pitch, and I don't really know what he did. It was a small touch, like a pass, but very sort of, don't even know how to describe it, a very sneaky one, and Tukums players completely bought it, and then Vishniakovs was onside when he looked offside, but he was onside and went one-on-one with the keeper but didn't score. But the pass from Lyzans, it's definitely something everyone should watch. It's just brilliant. But then against Lyzans, he's the maestro. He can do these things, and unfortunate not to score a goal in the end, especially for Vishniakovs, because when Minions scored, they sort of celebrated. They did this baby celebration because apparently Vishniakovs is going to become a father or became one. Not sure, but that's a little positive. That's nice to see. But overall, yeah, Supernova could have done more in the game, but just awful in the back, in the goal. And it wasn't only Weisbuks. Also, defenders seemed a bit, I don't know, a bit scared maybe at times. I think there's a lack of communication. But if they fix it, maybe they can win some games against Tukums, Daugavpils if they're not good, and maybe Jelgava. But other than that, it seems that it's tough for Supernova.
And that brings us to the main headline event of Matchday 20, the Big Riga Derby, Part 3, Riga FC versus RFS. 30th of June, 8 p.m., Skonto Stadium, 4.7 thousand people in attendance. Fantastic game, so much emotion. RFS up 2-0, Riga pulling one back at the end of first half. Second half just fighting on the pitch, struggles and a real battle throughout. And then Riga equalizing in injury time in second half with a fantastic display of skill by one of their newcomers, Brian Peña. And the stadium just goes wild. or heartbroken, depending on who you ask. But in any case, Stipic makes a sprint across the pitch to celebrate with players. This is just complete mayhem and pandemonium, and Riga pull a point out of this. And in the 3 Riga derbies out of 4 to date, it's all draws. 1-1, 0-0, 2-2. And Riga still 1 point ahead of RFS in the table, and RFS are still undefeated but trailing behind.
Yeah, these games, the Riga derbies, when they take place in Skonto Stadium, is always just a celebration of football, a football festival, especially for us in Latvia. It's always a good game, it seems that, and always a lot of people, and it's all very exciting and full of emotions. It's even a bit hard to talk about because there's just so much going on in my head when thinking of the game, especially because seeing it live is just, very nice. You see the whole emotion, not only on the pitch, but also the coaches. You see the Moros sort of calmness versus Stipic, just constant jumping around, screaming, as you said, racing across the pitch to celebrate the goal. But yeah, well, what a game! What a game! I think anyone anyone anywhere in the world, if they would watch this game, they would say it's a high quality game, and anyone would enjoy it.
Which actually brings us to the point that you can enjoy it. Even if you don't see it, even if you're abroad, you can go to the Virsliga website and watch game recording. No problem, no geo restrictions, no excuse not to.
Good point. And yeah, a couple of players definitely shine during the game. Before or at the start of the game, I think we talked about Emerson's, that he thrives in these games, and he definitely did. Got a goal and an assist, made the whole show whenever he was on the ball. Very nice first goal. Took it around Jurkovskis, one of the best Latvian wing backs, the national team left back, and just scored almost in the far top corner. Sort of not lobbed Purinc, but it was a very sort of dipping shot. Just went over Purinc and then just dipped in the goal. Very nice. I think we got a lovely angle on that. And then a few minutes later, he, with a little sort of shimmy and maybe a help of a wet pitch, sort of just put Musa on the ground. He fell over. And then, nice cross. Coadio with the head just slotted in the top corner, 2-0. At that point, I honestly thought that it's wraps for Riga, because even though they seemed a bit better at the start of the game, then RFS took over the sort of the control and then scored 2 goals, and they looked just so confident. And even against Riga, when they scored the second goal, it takes me back to this boring but quality game that they're doing. Well, this definitely wasn't boring, but I mean, overall, the fact that they seem to easily just be scoring and so confidently attacking and not conceding as well. At that point, I thought that the game is over, but turned out that not. And just before the halftime, Ngonda showed why he should be in the team. Scored a header not from directly from a corner, but they did a short corner. Jojic crossing it, and he sort of got head on it and put it in the top, not top, but just the far corner. And very exciting first half. And after that, it was just exciting to see what comes and what the second half it was as well.
Yeah, so much emotion on the pitch, in the stands. First half for me, RFS seemed to be completely in the driver's seat, confident, just really making short work of Riga. Second half, Riga regrouped, probably got an earful of Stipic in their ears, changed formation a little bit. But second half, Riga looking much more cohesive, much more dangerous. Also, the game became much more physical. I think so. For RFS, Mares got injured, had to be subbed off. Then Osh, I think, just exhausted himself, had to be replaced. And Diomande also got injured and had to be replaced. So all the running that RFS were doing in the first half really started to become a problem in second half. Many forced substitutions, I think, weakened the team overall. And that, I sense, is kind of the main difference between these two teams. RFS started with probably their currently optimal lineup. When we looked at it, Diamande on the right wing was a little bit of a surprise, but how he performed in the previous game, really well deserved. And then as they kept getting knocked, they just didn't have the same quality on the bench, or certainly not available on that day. Like Ikaunieks wasn't available, he's still not fit to play, recovering from a major injury. But Riga did. And Riga have this bench that is worth, probably, if we're looking at transfer market values, probably like a third of what the RFS squad is worth. They just have these players that they can keep throwing into the fray over and over and over again, and that's what Stipic was doing. He kept subbing excellent player with another excellent player, just big names coming on the pitch, replacing other big names, and in the end, they gave the one of the latest signings, Brian Peña, a Barcelona academy player, a chance, and with the magnificent display of individual skill, he settled the game. Well, as much as you can settle a draw, but for Riga, this for sure must have felt like a win, and they celebrated it as such, and RFS certainly celebrated, mourned the result as if they lost, but that's not the case. It's 2-2, but to me that was a very good kind of a summary of the difference between these two clubs. RFS a better team, and Riga a very deep pit of resources and lots of excellent players, but they just need to keep burning these resources to get the results. And I'm very excited to see what the last Riga Derby will be like once these two teams have already played in Europe, and to see where they're at.
Yeah, I think what helped Riga this game to get the draw was the fact that they did have these good players on the bench, but also players that have not really been seen that much in the Riga team. For example, Peña got just a few minutes in the last game, so that was it. They did not know what to expect from him because, there's no way to even study him in Riga team. Mankenda as well, even though he did play for Liepaja, you don't really know what's the deal with him in Riga. Karamoko, I think hasn't played a lot this season for Riga, so these subs probably helped because they probably confused RFS, and it did seem a bit confusing because the fact that they subbed on both Stuglis and Jagodinskis, of course they wanted to sort of cement their defense, but ended up sort of not working out. So I think Stipic just sort of masterminded his way to the draw. Also, the two subs in the first half, it's a very rare thing for him to do. And also two subs on the spot, I think they also were the right ones. Well, I was a bit surprised about Saisolo. I think he did well, but Mortal was definitely sort of just not fitting in the left wing role rather than left back where he's been playing the whole season. Just somehow worked out. And as you said, a very nice goal in the end. Just took the ball upon him 2 turns and slotted it in the bottom corner. Very nice goal, full of emotions. But you probably remember after that there was another RFS attack where Emerson hit the post. So it was almost a heartbreak for Riga overall in the end. But it wasn't to be. Then they also had an opportunity in the end, which Douglas Aurelio sort of went in the middle, passed it, and then I don't remember who, but Sky did, but could have went in the goal as well. And just a very exciting game, very sort of fast-paced, and in the end, anything could have happened. And I think 2-2 is overall a fair result, though definitely RFS can be sad about it, while Riga can be happy with the point. But just what a game, and this is really what we live for in football. This is what we love to see and want to see, and the last Riga Derby is definitely going to be a huge one, especially considering that it's very likely that the teams are still going to be just a few or just a point off each other in the table, and it's pretty much going to be like a final, and very excited for it.
The only thing that could have made this game even better is if one of the teams scored that third goal at the very end. In the injury time of injury time, If and Emerson did come way closer. Hitting the post is much closer than sending the ball over the stands, into the car park. And I think it was Dabro who did that. But that maybe if there was one thing, that probably could have been it. But I mean, that would have been a very marginal improvement anyway. But yeah, I just wanted to a little bit refute what you said about Stipic masterminding this game. I mean, you know that I'm of very high opinion of Stipic, and I think he's a really great coach, or certainly a wonderful coach personality. But I think in this game, his master plan ended up being just throwing everything he has, including the kitchen sink, on the field. Because tactically, Riga got outplayed. And I think it's just by virtue of having these, almost an endless supply of high-quality players on the benches that you could just keep feeding into there. And that's how they saved themselves. And it's not the first time, and not just speaking about Riga derbies, that Riga seem to kind of scrape their way by the skin of their teeth out of a defeat or out of a draw. And yes, they started the season really confidently, and yes, they are absolutely a dreadnought going forward. But these cracks start to show, and the more they happen, the more of them that we start seeing. That what Stipic is talking about, that I was a little bit dismissive of as a marketing kind of a ruse, that Riga do not have the composure of a team. I feel like are really showing with increasing regularity, especially if we're talking about defense, especially as teams get a little bit more used to what Riga is all about. They have quick flanks, and once those are neutralized or unavailable, as was for the game against Valmiera where they lost, then the team kind of just becomes a bit toothless. And we'll just have to see. Now the last lap, once that kicks off, it's really going to be every game worth its weight in gold, because I think Nowitzki said that, and I do agree. I don't think the title will be decided in a Riga derby. It will be extremely exciting if it does, but I think it's going to be the other teams and who can take points away from either Riga or RFS.
Yeah, I do agree. Yeah. Just to quickly comment on the Stipic mastermind thing, I agree that it just, he's lucky that he has these players on the bench, but yeah, my point was about the unpredictability of the players, because he still had Dashkevich on the bench, which he subs on more towards the end of the games, usually in Virsliga, but he didn't this time. He brought on Karamako and Peña, who barely played, but that's what makes them unpredictable. Of course, it can't work in the long run, of course, because they're going to get figured out. But yeah, just this game, maybe. But then again, I agree. It is a bit of a lucky thing as well. So that's fair enough. But yeah, completely agree with the rest. That yeah, Riga does show some cracks, and that's why I'm a bit pessimistic about the Conference League playoffs. They probably will get over the first round, maybe the second as well, but I think it won't be that confident, because yeah, it just seems that they lack this sort of gelling and just confidence and just this understanding of what we can do and what we must do as RFS does. I think RFS know their limits and they know how they should be playing, and that's why I'm saying they're boring, just style of playing good. While Riga is just a bit more scrappy, and but it shouldn't be like that, because on the paper their quality is way higher and they should be doing better, and that's why it's a bit sort of even a bit frustrating, because we could have this like big super club, I think, playing pretty much regularly in European group stages, but yeah, this is what they're lacking, and can't really do that with changing players that much. Well, RFS of course is just the sort of their base of their team is played together for numerous years at this point, so fair enough.
And they don't have as many resources either.
True, yeah. So they make do with what they got, and they do it brilliantly. And yeah, maybe if Riga sort of limited their budget more 1 year and started to think more of the other things they could do with the players, maybe that could be beneficial. But well, that's definitely not gonna happen. But we can only just speculate. But
I mean, Riga are still to have a coach who finishes the season with the team. You know, the same coach who started it. And maybe Stipic will be
this
the
looks
one.
promising. Yeah.
I hope so, but it does. And I think that this whole thing that he keeps talking about legacy and heritage, I think that might actually be a very good selling point for him to communicate to club owners with their, attention deficit disorder when it comes to coaching stuff, is that, he's there to build that, and you need that heritage, and you need that kind of an institutional memory of a club in order to not just be a collection of expensive players by relatively, by local and regional standards, but to be a team that can regularly compete in European games and Conference League group stages, or in Europa League even. And it would be good to see that. So hopefully he'll get a chance to coach and sort of restructure that organization that is Riga FC a little bit in a more kind of a sustainable, longer-term strategic direction. But yeah, welcome Brian Peña to the Virsliga. It was a fantastic goal, and we awarded, we welcome you with the goal of the round, which is absolutely not something that is a given that there were some very good goals in other games, but on account of significance alone and just fantastic individual skill and technique, there really is no rival to that goal that saved Riga from succumbing to RFS in injury time of the second half. And we also would like to remind everyone that European games are already next week. It's so close. I'm very excited. On 11th of July, Valmiera travels to Olympia Ljubljana, a game that is at 9 p.m. Riga time. And then on 13th of July, RFS goes to Macedonia to play Macedonia GP at 6:30, and Riga will welcome Vikingur here in Riga at 8 p.m. also on 13th of July. It's so close. I can smell it. It's exciting. Can't wait.
Yeah, it will be just great. It's always great when the European football comes and you get to see how Latvian teams do on the big stage and how they do against other countries, especially such countries as Iceland. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how such a team will play. I saw Novitskis Edmund's post about, I think it was on Patreon, about the sort of Icelandic teams that their players are actually good, but the fact that they don't go abroad is because it's just comfort and easier and logistically easier, and that's why the team it's definitely not going to be as bad as some people might expect. It's going to be a tough opponent, and yeah, it's just overall very interesting. And the Valmiera in Champions League, everything. The fact that they're playing in Dallin Stadium as well, just everything's nice about it, and just can't wait. And I hope at least two teams get through to the next round, and we see more of it after.